welcome back to Research Realm. I'm your host, Nicole Stiff, and joined with me today is my co-host, Dr. Mazhar Jaffry, our CEO.
Thank you, Nicole.
Today, we are bringing an industry technology partner to talk about something that affects everyone in the clinical research field. Technology, is it slowing us down or is it speeding us up? That's what we're here to find out today. So today, our guests are Mr. Rick Greenfield, the founder of RealTime CTMS, and Mr. Jeff Kozloff, who is the CEO of RealTime. So welcome, Rick and Jeff.
Thanks for having us.
Great to be here.
All right. So for those of you who may not know RealTime or what they do, please tell us a little bit about RealTime, about you founding RealTime, and what problem are you trying to solve in the industry?
Sure. Well, so again, thanks for having us. This is a really neat forum to be at. So I'm crossing over this year. Actually, is my 25th year working in clinical research. I'm really excited to say, and also it just kind of shows how old I'm getting, right? But RealTime really came out of being a site owner and understanding that there are so many problems that sites are needing to solve for. And the industry's matured a lot since I came into it. I mean, we were using the carbon copy NCR pages, with source documents, and monitors would come and tear those off. And I quickly realized that we needed to be far more advanced in how we run clinical trials. And there just wasn't software available back, and I'm talking in early 2000s, to even manage a lot of these processes. So RealTime was born out of a need, and we started building software for my site. But today, RealTime is a global application that is being used by sites all over the world. And we still have so much work to do, right? But really our North Star is to solve for these really challenging issues that sites have today. And of course, the stakeholders in clinical research include the sponsors, the CROs, and the sites. Our focus, my focus, has always been to really empower sites with technology that solves for their problems, but ultimately really provides excellent workflows for all of those stakeholders.
Thank you. Anything to add, Jeff?
I think it's a really exciting time to be in the space. I just joined the company 90 days ago, and I've admired RealTime for over 4 years. I've known Rick, and I just think we're at a really pivotal crossroads in the industry right now. And I was excited to jump in on the clinical trial, tech side of things from the site perspective. For many years, sponsors and the sponsor tech has existed because of some of the archaic workflows and the paper-based process, at the sites. But obviously, thanks to RealTime and others, sites now have great infrastructure and technology at their fingertips to really accelerate research. And so I'm excited to be at the helm. We've got a great team here, and it's fun to get out with customers like yourselves and do some site visits. Mm-hmm. So thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, we're going to start with an icebreaker question for everyone. So what is one shift in clinical research technology that you feel is very real to right now?
Who do you want to take that question?
All of you. Who wants to go first?
Oh, you might as well go first. You're over here.
So, great question. I truly believe that as we are progressing into future and coming from the past, technology used to be optional like 15, 20 years ago. But if anybody has a desire to be a global leader or like competing in the market space, market is more mature, but also very saturated. To create better processes, technology is a must. It's not optional anymore. It's almost like mandatory because there's so much needs to be done, which is not humanly possible. The requirements by the industry are so harsh and there's so many. Each visit takes like multiple things to be done by one individual. So technically, if you just do not use technology, you might need like 5 people to do the same job. Now, with the help of technology, one person can do many jobs. And also the most important thing that they will keep the score, that what's happening, what's not happening. And also the audit trails can really find out what they are doing that. So first of all, technology is to improve basically managing the process of research, clinical research in the United States. Now the competition is going on, who's going to enhance it better, who's going to make it simple, who's going to make it like one and done type of philosophy. And I think our technology partners, RealTime, has done a very good job. When we started working with them 9 years ago, and evolution was going on, and evolution is still going on. And we have seen that RealTime has progressed over for the last 9 years. Almost like 100 new features have been added since when we were using it. But I contribute like a lot of success that the Revival team has received in the last 9 or 10 years was contributed based on we chose good processes, procedures, as well as good technology. I think we have achieved a lot of success because the technology was right. It was the right fit. As earlier Rick mentioned, that they are very focused to find best solutions for the teams. I think this is one technology that's needed, but I think the need to keep on growing in the future is really there. It's almost like impossible to avoid technology at this time.
Well, and I think, Mazhar, you really emphasize sort of the point I wanted to make around the shift. And the shift is that sites and site networks are arming themselves with technology on a level that I think was really never thought of before. When I came into the industry, there was very little, almost no technology being leveraged in all these processes. And then there was a time when sponsors and CROs were providing a lot of technology to sites, which was very disruptive and very challenging in many cases. As you know, even still today, this is happening, and your coordinators, your staff are having to use multiple systems in a clinical trial. What we're seeing is sites becoming so complex and so advanced and leveraging technology in their own stack, right? And so I think the shift is that technology is now being owned and managed by the sites themselves. And I think that trend is going to continue, that sites are going to continue to grow in complexity. They're really becoming, they always have been, I believe, one of the most important stakeholders, but I think today they're really exemplifying their value as a key stakeholder in the clinical research process, and they are really the ones bringing this advanced technology to the table in many cases.
And I think the studies, obviously, right, are continuing to get more and more complex as well, and so you need, right, we need technology to be able to keep up with that complexity, to stay efficient, right? The North Star, I think, of our industry, has been this way for 40 years. It'll be this way for the next 40, right? It's about speed, right? How fast can we get things done? How efficiently can we get things done? And then obviously, quality, will always be there. But technology really is starting to help us, like everybody knows, move faster, be more efficient. And, source, one of the things I'm most excited about, obviously, is eSource, because as these studies get more and more complex, you need source. Source loves complexity. It helps to set sites up for success. It sets up everybody, downstream for success. And so that's one of the things that really attracted me, to RealTime was eSource.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, let's get into it. So we wanted to start with talking about what actually is happening at sites right now in clinical research today. So a data point that I'm going to state is industry data shows the average site uses 5 to 8 different technology platforms per study. A site running 15 or more studies might be managing accesses for over 40 systems. So question to Rick and Jeff. Across your user base, how many different systems do you see the average site juggling alongside RealTime?
You want me to take it?
Sure.
Well, I've seen different surveys out there. Some of them say upwards of 20. Certainly, I think in many cases it's somewhere around 10 or more. I think there's always going to be this problem. You have, of course, IRT systems, ECOA, ePro, things that really are driven by sponsor vendors that are very specific to certain tasks within a study that maybe help to decentralize and things like that. So I don't know that we ever get away from having multiple systems, but can we reduce? Can we make it less? And can we arm the sites with technology that they can leverage across all of their trials in a very consistent way? And I think the idea that a coordinator would have to see a patient and use a subset of technology on this patient and then go into another room for a different study and have to use a completely different set of technologies for the same processes doesn't make sense. It creates a lot of inefficiencies and workflows. And so sites need to be able to leverage their own tools that are really specific to their deliverables. And I always like to say, what are site deliverables? Well, it's data and documents for the most part. It's all of the EISF documents that they have to maintain for the study, and it's all the data that we have to collect that ultimately we have to deliver back to the sponsor. And so for those critical tasks that are highly regulated, highly protocol specific, sites need a tool that they understand, they know, and they can leverage across all of their trials. And so, look, I can't solve, or I guess I should say RealTime can't solve for everything, but I think what we're hoping to do is reduce and really provide this efficiency for the technology that sites are having to leverage every day to do their jobs.
Okay, that was leading into my next question as to when a new site approaches you, what are the things that you can cover from RealTime? Like, what can you replace for a site to kind of bring everything into one?
Shoot, when you look at what our SOM system provides, start to finish, I don't want to say everything, but it's a lot. Of course, everything from recruitment activities and being able to manage the funnel, which is one of the most important ways that sites are successful, is recruiting patients, right? Managing the protocol-specific visits, procedures, but then it gets into the financials. So, instead of working on spreadsheets and sticky notes, which quite honestly, my site was leveraging very heavily in the beginning, we're now utilizing technology to manage these processes. And of course, the future for a lot of this stuff is going to be AI. But, data collection, document management, e-signatures, I could literally go on with all the different tools that are built into our system that a site can leverage. And they may not do it all at once. It's a lot to take on all at once. So I think, our goal is to make sure that we put in the CTMS layer that really kind of takes care of the foundation. And then as they become familiar with the technology, as they become more comfortable with the technology, start to add in the other modules that will start to take over those other parts of the business.
Yeah, I think when I think about our business and what we do well, we're the operating system, for the clinical trial site. And so, our customers are obviously passionate about conducting research, but, to do more studies, to, win more studies, to conduct more research, obviously you need tooling, you need infrastructure to help keep your business working efficiently. And so, like Rick said, everything, obviously from the patient scheduling, to the budgeting, to the financials, to the data collection, to the regulatory, documentation, right? We want to be that tooling that works in the background so that you can do what you guys do best, which is see patients, and then obviously do more and more studies so we can go back to what we were talking about before, accelerating, time, getting more studies in, getting more drugs to market. And I think that's what's great about what our team does behind the scenes.
Well, I love the fact that you use the term operating system. And that's why we named it our SOM system, right? It's because people used to just refer to us as a CTMS vendor. And I'm like, CTMS is typically thought of as a very small subset of features that we have in our system. So we named our system SOMS, which is Site Operations Management System, because it does a whole lot more than what you think of when you just think of CTMS.
And I think just to Rick's credit, again, in this industry, right, it's great because there's a lot of problems to solve, right? And so as a entrepreneur, you're always looking for real world problems to solve, but a lot of times you end up with point solutions, right? And so this industry is just full of, a lot of point solutions. Rick had the vision of building a platform, the SOMS system, so that sites could have everything they need in one system versus having to go and contract with multiple different partners or vendors. And again, I think that's really why, RealTime's differentiated itself, and, he's built such a successful company over the years from that platform vision.
Well, just to add to that, by having all of these systems in one system, we can now create cross-functional workflows that tie your regulatory department to the clinical departments that are conducting informed consents or collecting data, right? And so having this ability to actually have these systems work together and talk to each other is another very powerful component to a fully integrated system like SOMS.
Perfect. Thank you. Overall in the industry, do you feel like we are still innovating, or do you think we're adding more layers as far as technology?
Oh, I think we're innovating, and I actually think it's accelerating. We're innovating faster than ever, and I give sites like Revival so much credit for this innovation, the way you guys think. And of course, I called you a site. You're a very large site network, and so you guys are having to leverage data on a level that honestly, I would never conceived of until probably 5 years ago, as the networks have become so large and so needy and hungry for data and understanding challenges and building better workflows. And so I think that you guys are the drivers of this growth in technology. We're trying to keep up with you in a lot of cases, right? And trying to help to serve your needs from a technology perspective. And so it's actually accelerating quite a bit.
Yeah. I think the other thing is just it's not all about technology sometimes. I mean, being here with you in Detroit, it's been really, fantastic. And you guys are pushing the envelope in other ways too, right? The facility, right, that you're building, right? Very, very patient-centric. It's incredible. It's an incredible facility. The training that you're doing, for your teams and how passionate you are, about training the workforce. Again, I think it's, you're using technology, obviously, to help with training, but there's just a lot of ways, I think, you guys are advancing the industry, which is just a lot of fun. So technology infused, but in many other ways, beyond that as well. So kudos to you.
Thank you. Anything to add?
Yes, I believe that everything you have said is really makes 100% sense. So I think technology, as I mentioned earlier, is a necessity to be successful. And any company out there, and they're like now, I've heard like more than 10,000 research centers just in the US. So it's a very competitive market. And we know that our next study that we get depends on the previous study, that how we have performed in that study. So the expectations from the sponsors is that you have to be immaculate. You provide everything that's needed. And above that, so even though it may not be a part of protocol, when the question comes, they want you to handle that situation if FDA comes back and basically asks you those questions. So it cannot be minimalist work anymore. It has to be maximum. It has to be very safe and sound for the employees, for the patients, because all the guidelines are there. It also has to be very, I would say you have to go back, you can go back and see what is happening. So all the audit trails, there's so much expectation. If you really write one line, there are probably 10, 20 lines before that and 20 lines after that. There you have to basically fulfill the needs of the market or the market space, because you are there. And I think there's a lot of competition is coming in. So for organizations which are adopting technology, I think, and I truly believe that will perform better. And I think this is the reason that 9 years ago, when we were really, it's a good story that we were working on papers and we end up in a study, we were very successful because we recruited 182 patients. But just managing those patients on a week-on-week basis was a nightmare. And unfortunately, the study lasted more than its specific time. It was supposed to close in 1 year, but it didn't close for like 3 years because the primary and secondary endpoints were not met, but we were on paper. So think about, we had a room of big binders, with every binder has like 2,000, 3,000 pages, and that was okay because everything was complete. But once in a while, the one CRA used to come and say, oh, I need to see this page, and then you look in that binder, you don't see that page at that actual position. We knew that that page was signed, everybody promised that, but now you have to go through 182 binders to find out that one piece of paper. That was a nightmare. So I think the technology really helped us, and so we knew that this is not going to function. Think about, we were doing 1 or 2 studies in 2017. Fast forward, we are doing 150 studies. They are 10 times more complex, those studies.
Wow.
The visits are like 35, 36 visits, last for 2 years or 3 years, and there's sometimes employees change, or they get promoted, or somebody's not there. Think about if you are really looking at a binder, even though it's a one binder, and you have to go back and the new person is checking it 3 years down the road, or when you have ordered like 5 years down the road, it's just a nightmare. It is not humanly possible to keep up with that kind of without technology. So what technology has done since we have started using RealTime, if anybody asks us any questions, I'm saying it very precisely, 98% of the times, we can find the answer within 1 minute, and that was the goal. This is where we started the journey. Hey, somebody asked me a question, how many people I have to call to get the right answer? It used to take me 3 days, at least 5 people used to find out one piece of information that I needed for the study. Fast forward, moving here right now, it takes 3 to 4 minutes. The only time it takes is basically going in the system, really going to that visit and find out what was there, what was not there, and also what was changed and who changed it. So these are very critically important, like when you go into the audit situation. So I think we feel very happy that I think we adopted the right technology, which was in initial primitive stages and real time. And as the needs grew for the customers, for us, I think there are very few vendors which keeps up with the growth of the organizations or the clients they are serving, but I can commit to that. And I think I'm very confident what was done in the past was actually matching 100% what our needs were. Of course, and also it's a kind of music to my ears that the investments you are doing to make it even better and really focusing on the customers and being very customer-centric company really helps us a lot. And of course, there are different softwares, and every software has some technology or some good thing which is stronger, better than others. But as a CEO of the company of Revival, I have to look at the totality of the technology, and that's critically important. I think if you really give a points to real time, it's really above 90s out of 100. If you really look at it, based on the technology, that's the needs which customers need. So it's a great place to be.
Love it.
Good to hear.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we're going to move into the reality of integrations. So another data point, the clinical trial technology market is projecting to hit $8 billion by 2027, growing at 12 to 14% a year, but a lot of money is going into building new standalone tools, not connecting the ones that already exist. So again, Rick and Jeff, question to you, how many of these integrations that sites need, like EDC, IRT, EMRs, are actually working smoothly today?
Very, very few, unfortunately. So you're giving me a chance to get up on my soapbox here. As an industry, we should be spending a whole lot more time on integrations. And unfortunately, what that means is that vendors have to work together. Vendors that compete with each other in some cases have to work together and come up with standardization on how we're going to move data between systems. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges. And furthermore, we have a lot of vendors that really, I feel like, almost want to silo themselves into being a one vendor option. That there's, I guess, some belief that they're going to own the market someday and everyone's just going to use one vendor. And I think that, I know when I wake up in the morning that RealTime's a great product. I know there's a lot of other great products out there. We're always going to be competing for customers and market share. And if you know that's true, then you know that we need to be thinking about how we can interconnect. I always like to tell the joke, do you think we're going to go to the conference and go into the exhibit hall and there's just going to be one booth? No, that's never going to happen, right? There's always going to be tons of vendors, tons of technology providers. We're all working hard to provide the tools that our customers need. The competition is actually what makes us all better. And so I hope we don't ever get to a single vendor. I hope we're always competing with each other because that's what makes us so much better. So let's figure out ways to connect the dots, right? Connect the data. Let's get eSource data moving into EDC. Let's get IRT. Let's get labs. Let's get all these things talking to each other and create real workflows across systems that can create massive value for our site customers.
And with that being said, when you're building the integrations, what is the biggest barrier? Is it, connecting with those vendors or the technology piece? Like, what is the biggest barrier?
There's a lot of barriers. I mean, it's everything. It's the technology is obviously the technology exists, but you've got to figure out how to make this system talk to that system, and what standard are you going to use? What programming languages are we going to use? And it's all very doable. And I always like to say, when we're talking about technology, pretty much anything is possible. It's really a matter of, do you have the desire to get it done and the funding to make it happen? And do you have two vendors on each side of the fence saying we're willing to work together? And so I find that the real challenges oftentimes are just agreeing that we need to build an integration and making sure you have two partners working together to make it happen.
Perfect. All right. We'll move on to technology and staffing crisis. So another data point for you. CRC turnover is estimated at 20 to 30% annually. It costs $30,000 to $50,000 to replace one coordinator. And studies show coordinators spend 30 to 40% of their time on admin and data entry with with not having any patients. So, question to Mazhar. If technology gave a coordinator back 5 hours a week, what would you do for that retention?
Nicole, you already know that we have been working on this for a while, and I think I truly believe that each individual person should have a good quality of life, especially anybody who's working for Revival, and that has been the reason for our existence and growth, because we have a very high retention rate. Like I think to the latest numbers, though it was high in the previous years, but last 1 year we have seen that we have provided support through different places and making people feel good, respecting each one of them, really pay for performance model, incentives, benefits, good work-life balance, vacations, health benefits, and other benefits. So giving sick leaves, like simple things, really supporting team members who get sick. A company has a philosophy, a simple philosophy, which is very interesting, that we do not have a retirement age. The expectation is that anybody who's working here and can come to the office or work from home till they want to, we should support that. Also, the company has a philosophy of if anybody gets sick, for unlimited time for very terminal disorders, we should take care of them and as well as their families for unlimited time. Like, for example, we have 1 or 2 colleagues who were got some very bad diagnosis, and they were sick for like 8 months. And they were very worried, like, what's going to happen. And I told them the philosophy of this company is that we'll support you when things are good, but we'll support you more when things are not good. Like, we are going to stand by you and by your family. You don't have to blink an eye. You don't have to worry about like hours or days or anything will be directed. So it's not just one thing, it's multiple things. Like, coming back to the technology, I truly feel like the end result is that each person in our company has extra 5 or 6 hours already because of the technology they are using. The only people who are suffering in our company, and there's always 5 or 10% who are not using technology wisely and effectively. So people who are using it, they're using it very effectively. We are using a lot of AI technology, which is helping saving time, and time is critically important. The expectation is not that the CRCs should be working like 10 hours a day. The expectation is that should be working 5 or 6 hours a day, and for 2 or 3 hours, they just basically complete the paperwork. And when they leave for home, they have no worry about that something is missing. And I've been encouraging that environment to be created, and that's possible. Now I can see that with technology. And the philosophy of getting it right first time and getting one and done type of philosophy, I think we are trying to make sure that all the employees feel that way. That, hey, do it like one time, put your all attention to put information which is needed, data points, primary endpoints, secondary endpoints, like labs, data on time. Do not miss it. And we had a great discussion yesterday about like how we can further emphasize on things if by mistake, because we are all humans and we'll make mistakes, 4 or 5% errors. Could there be a possibility that technology can inform them, hey, you missed this blank? Because I truly believe awareness is the key to success. And people who are working with us, at least in Revival, I know they are all very competent, very assertive, very strong people. They want to get the job done. So this technology can support them, assist them to complete their work or complete their missing work, which unintentionally they missed. Mm-hmm. So all these things are possible that you have one person who's doing the job, but the technology is helping them in a form of 5 or 6 assistants or associates to get the job done, and basically feeling of that accomplishment. I think the biggest reason I was asking somebody that why you're here and why you've been here for the last 10 years. And I think the answer was that they feel complete. When they leave for the day, they think that everything is done and nobody's going to come after them, and they have done everything humanly possible, or from the expectation perspective from FDA, everything is done. So the feeling of accomplishment and feeling of basically getting things done, I think is critically important for the health, for kind of happiness for a person, which is a key for the success. Retention is definitely hard, and I know many companies are suffering, and I think every company who have very high percentage of turnover, they should look at how they are treating their people. Like Are they providing a good, comfortable environment for the employees? They feel safe. They know the management is going to support them, especially when things will be rough. I think that's the key. But that does not mean that we should encourage bad behaviors. We should encourage positive behaviors, but bad behaviors should not be acceptable to grow the company for the sake of for the sake of improvement of process and procedures.
Thank you. All right, question to Jeff or Rick. Talking about your customers, so when a site has high turnover, does it reset the technology learning curve? Or how do you handle that? Do sites need to reach out? Do they train internally, or is that something that you guys are providing support to? Do you see that a lot within your sites that are using real-time?
Well, I think, all the things that Mazhar said about employee retention, a lot of those are outside of our control, right? And it's amazing all the things that you're doing as a CEO for your company, for your employees. The one thing we do have control over is the technology, right? So, I think it's really sort of like being pragmatic. Like, what are some things that we can add into the software that really does improve the work life of the people that use the software, right? But then also making sure that it's intuitive, right? So that it's something that they can understand and they can easily, when you do have turnover, unfortunately, that new people can come in and easily learn the software. From a retention standpoint, and how you manage retention, I think that we want to have very intuitive, great software for the staff to work with, and we want to have the documentation that they can learn from. But I think it's also important for sites to have SMEs within their staff that can be those trainers that can really help people cross over into the technology world. And maybe they were using a different technology, or maybe they really were technology naive at their prior place of work. And so you have to really kind of handhold those employees into the technology and make sure that they're successful. So that's really just more of a suggestion that sites need to have those educated staff members, those trainers, if you will. And then our job is to make sure the software is as intuitive as possible and that we have the tools, the training tools available.
Yeah, I think as so you think about any high-performing, company or business, like you said, life happens. Unfortunately, people have to go out for a certain period of time. It's really, it's on us as leaders, obviously, to cross-train and make sure, that we have people that can put themselves in other people's shoes. And we do that, obviously, in our day-to-day, but we also have to do that from a technology, perspective as well. And so, you have to, come on site, be shoulder to shoulder, with your customers, understand that lived experience of how they're using your software so that we can obviously, develop better software as well. And even in our own jobs, right, we have to make sure that we're cross-training and, eating our own dog food, per se, what we want reality to look like. And so, that's important to our organization. We have a lot of, our own e-learning, and then, we love opportunities like this to come out and see, in the real world, what the opportunities are. And obviously change management is hard as well, right? You can build really great software. You can build the next great thing, but we're all human and we get, into our own ways. And it's incumbent upon us, and it's incumbent upon, leaders like yourselves too, to really showcase the value. You have to get that quick win, immediately when you do a new release or when you come up with, a new feature. And so that's really important to us, and something that we can always, continuously improve on, but something that's, one of our North Stars. I have an ethnographic kind of research background where you see the world through other people's eyes. And so that's why I love being out here, with customers, and we have a big initiative to get our team out, with customers more so that we can truly understand, from your perspective, some of the best, consumer packaged goods companies in the world, like the Procter & Gamble's, the Kimberly-Clarks of the world, right? They send people into the homes just to watch people brush their teeth, right? How do they put on deodorant? What's that lived experience, right? And that's how they come up with, the best innovations, from the consumer world. And again, I think technology companies have done that to a large degree, but we can always do a lot more. And I think, that's where we're seeing an exciting shift too in pharma and sponsors, a lot of sponsors are creating site engagement teams now, right? To really come out into the field and truly understand, like the question you were asking before about the 20 different systems that you have to log on to. It's not until they come on site, and really understand all the different studies that you're juggling, right? The chaos of the day of patients coming in and out and employees, to get that real understanding of, well, I just thought you were working on just my study, or when I designed this, right, I only had my study in mind, but obviously that's just one small piece of the pie that we're all juggling. So I think it's great that, sponsors are taking that approach, really embracing these site engagement teams, and I think that trend's going to continue.
Perfect. All right, we're going to move into CTMS to EDC auto data transfers. So another data point, most sites still do dual entry, so documenting in their source, then re-entering it into the EDC. Transcription errors account for 15 to 25% of all queries at the site. Every query takes about 10 to 15 minutes to resolve, and that adds up to hundreds of hours of rework. So question to Rick, where does RealTime stand with the EDC Connect feature?
Well, number one, this is a problem that we want to be on the forefront of solving. Obviously, we all knew when we went into the eSource world that we were not eliminating the transcription problem. And so, that was always the first question that any potential customer would ask is, does it translate into EDC? And the answer was no, but there's so many other benefits. eSource is still a very valuable tool, but yes, you are going to have to transfer the data. So we want to solve that problem. We are working with a top 5 CRO to actually develop technology that's allowing us to move data directly into EDC. There's a lot of challenges with data harmonization, CDISC, CDASH standards. And so we've largely solved for that, and we're still working through a pilot to really work out some of the kinks. But, I would just really say that for the most part, RealTime is highly engaged in solving this problem, and we're making some good inroads.
Good. Question to Dr. Jaffry. What would it change at Revival if coordinators could enter data just one time?
I think that would be an ideal choice, and I think we have always promoted that our CRCs should not be working anything twice. And actually, that's my philosophy for anything that is out there, that you do it once, you clearly look at it, that you are seeing it last time, and the next time people will ask you a question will be an ordered question. So you should do it one time. It is laborious for expecting them to go back and do it again in EDC and answer specific questions. So at Revival, we have to support this need by adding a lot of people. So we have almost like 25 people in our department that does data entry. So they take the information, it's a big cost, and it's a redundancy that we do not have the right solution at this time. So that's why these 25 people go back, they look at the CTMS system, and they enter the information into EDC. We use it in both ways. One is basically that saves time for the CRCs, number one. Second, what we have seen in a retrospective way, that we have identified more errors by adding more eyes into looking at the data. So when they go and look at the data and they enter the information in EDC, if the queries generate, it gives us the clear idea that we are missing out something, we are doing something wrong, so we can catch up on those things right away because find out why these errors are coming up. So when it's not consistent, like CTMS data collection and entry into DCC, when these two parties talk to each other, we have identified that it reduces 75 to 80% chances of doing it wrong from the expectations from primary endpoints and secondary endpoints. So I think it helped us in the past, but the challenge is a lot of redundancy and a lot of cost of having those people. But as I'm saying, because of the size of the company that we are doing 150 clinical projects at any given time, we can afford it. But I can clearly understand like sites with like 1 or 2 sites or a few people, it's very hard. One person has more laborious work to do one thing 2 and 3 times. And this discussion is not new, what you asked. This has been going on for the last 15, 20 years, that, hey, why we have to do it twice? And I think the technology has not reached to that level where there's a bidirectional interfaces are created or companies are open, even though RealTime may be open, and I think the management wants to create that, but there could be hindrance from the other side because it's a privacy, or some CEOs or some companies would feel they either don't have the technology or they don't have time to basically create like these integrations, or the system, their system or the software they have created is not ready or apt to basically receive information or give information to other parties. So there, as both of them have said, it could be a real technical problem to manage those things. And this has been a dilemma for the entire country since 2004 or 5, since EMR was introduced. And that was one of the expectations to pass certifications from all the healthcare agencies that there should be communication between healthcare organizations. So there should be, but on a country level, we have not reached to that part where different softwares will be acting on a universal repository or a system where you can go and take the information what's needed and you can give the information. So we are not there yet, but the overall continued discussions are going on for the last 15, 16 years.
Yeah, I love, well, this is an area I'm most excited about. Again,
Yes.
the value of source. And again, we work so hard, right, in this industry to find eligible patients, right? These
Yes.
brave participants that want to participate in clinical research. And then, the few and far between, as we all know, and then we get them, to our sites to participate. And obviously, like you said, when they leave for a visit and then and then it goes into the EDC and then if there's an issue, well, they've left, right? And so obviously, to your point, the having, the e-source, being able to, provide, that clarity in the moment, getting it right,
Yes.
In that visit, and obviously then also the downstream effects of, reducing the data duplication and source data verification and so forth. I think that's the most exciting to me is, again, it's back to that patient experience, right? We work so hard to find them. They're brave. They come, they show up to the visit. It's on us to make sure, that the technology works seamlessly.
Yes.
And that we know in advance, right, using technology, if there was an issue, we can correct it in the moment versus having to call them back or trying to scramble. And then we look back. So we're investing heavily in eSource. We're excited. I think the rest of the industry and especially the sponsors, I think, are excited to your point.
Yes.
We created EDC and others, sponsored tech stack solutions because, the sites weren't ready for it. The pendulum is completely switched.
Yes.
And, to Rick's point, I think the sites have the, more of the power and the control as they should. And eSource is kind of at the epicenter of all of that. And so, wow, exciting today, but just imagine, what we're going to see, 12 and 24 months from now.
And also I would like to add, Jeff, I think the best thing I like about technology is that we don't have to deal with the papers. So think about, we did one study, it has 182 binders and has 1,000 pages in it. So the waste of paper, the ink, cartridges, and
Right.
I saw 2 or 3 people nonstop used to just print out papers every day because there were multiple visits were happening. Punch and file. So this this was a nightmare.
Yeah.
The cost of just paper and print was for us was going $4,000 or $5,000.
No more paper
study.
cuts, no more binder pinches.
Yes. And think about if we would be living in that environment, I think we need a full building just to host that paperwork because each study at the end creates at least big boxes or 9 or 10 boxes. So let's say we have been doing 150 studies every year for the last 5 years. So we need buildings to basically save that data for 20, 25 years.
Yep, the
as
space
expectation.
savings and the storage savings alone are quite substantial.
Yeah, this is what we did in the first 4 or 5 years. It's just papers, putting papers at the right places and still missing one paper.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, Rick, not that you can predict the future, but would you say the CTMS to EDC integration is a 2-year, 5-year, or 10-year problem or beyond?
I hope that it's definitely solved within the next 2 years. And I think that we're making some really large strides in solving this. We already have proof of concepts in place. And we're really testing them in actual production environments right now. So there are some challenges, and then of course we're wanting to make it multi-vendor, right? So we can connect to multiple EDC, all the large EDC vendors. So we have to validate that with each of those vendors. So I'm going to say 2 years or less.
All right.
Good.
Yeah.
We'll hold him to it.
I like it.
Yeah,
I
very
like
optimistic. That's good. Love it.
All right.
Well, you guys are seeing this already, right? That sponsors want sites that are tech enabled, right?
Yes.
Because, like you said, you're able to prove
Yes.
from a metrics perspective, right? Faster startup,
Yes.
better quality.
Yes. Yes. We believe in the three pillars, like fast startup process. So start a study within 15 days to a month, then high recruitment. And also, as I mentioned earlier in our discussions, that it's like multiple things that we are using to enhance that area. And the third is the most important thing like for the WIFM, for a pharmaceutical company, are they receiving, after spending time, energy, and money, the real data? Mm-hmm. So we claim that you will get a clean data only because of having a good technology and the process and procedures in place that I can commit to them before starting a study that, hey, we'll provide you very good data.
Right.
Because the checks and balances, the places that we have, and no paper is missing. Right. Every paper is there. Mm-hmm. And the best thing I like about the system, and I think there's a whole story that I can talk about, that intentionally, unintentionally, one paper get missed, the toll and the system that get compromised to prove that it was done or not done is huge. It takes one paper get missed in real paper form. It will take 1 or 2 hours to find that paper if that existed. Or it's like goes into trash because the cleaning lady was basically cleaning that day and she didn't realize this is the right paper wrong, it's gone. So the time that was consumed to find those, that was really too much.
Right. Well, and again, I think data, the exciting part about having, data or, think about the CDS model or USMDC, different data models is that we don't even know 2 years from now, right, how this data could be used. But we do know that it needs to be, the right architecture and the right structure, today to unlock the art of the possible in the future, which obviously was not possible in a paper-based world. And so, again, I think that's where a lot of the excitement is. We know what the current North Star is of where we want to go. Obviously, e-source direct into EDC. But, again, 6 months from now, 12 months from now, 18 months from now, right, what are the next big unlocks going to be? You can't get there, obviously, unless you have, your data structured properly. And I think that's the exciting part.
Perfect. Yes, good.
All right, question to Rick. Where is AI actually working in clinical trials today?
AI is working in a lot of places, and there's so many places it can work. We're leveraging it in a lot of ways that you don't even see on the back end, with software development, with software analytics, even helping us find challenging bugs in the software. It's amazing how much time it is saving our engineers. So it's really honestly helping us accelerate our business and how quickly we're able to deliver new solutions to customers, and of course, clean up bugs that might sneak into the system. But, from more of a front-end user perspective, there's just so many opportunities for us to create new efficiencies. I think I like to throw a little bit of caution in there, too, that, for instance, utilizing AI to parse a protocol for an investigator judgment. That's something that scares me a little bit, right? If an investigator is going to rely on AI to decipher a protocol, procedure, or inclusion, exclusion for that matter, is AI correct? We all know that AI hallucinates every now and then. And so I think there's certain areas where we need to be cautious, but when it comes to things like patient recruitment, managing recruitment work funnels, managing even communications with patients, and then these other arduous tasks that we know can create a lot of challenges with e-source form building, even financial template building within the CTMS. We still probably want to have some level of human review on these things, but if we can take something that normally requires an hour of a person's time and reduce that down to 10 minutes, then we've, to your point as a site owner, we've really given a lot of value back to you, right, that you can then leverage that time into other more important things. So it's very high up on our to-do list to evaluate what are the best uses for AI and how can we make sure that we're bringing the maximum efficiency to our customers with AI tools.
Okay, and to Jeff, if you could use AI to solve one problem in clinical research tomorrow, what would it be?
One problem to solve in clinical research. Well, one of the areas I'm most excited about, again, I think we're starting to see some early wins here, but still, years away, is synthetic control arms and just, again, using data to accelerate some of the clinical trials, for for our control arms. And so again, I think to do that in the future, to say you can get standard of care. But again, I think personally, a lot of these brave participants, again, they want to participate in the experimental arm, right? They can get standard of care, potentially in other places. Can't do that again unless we structure, the data right today for what's the art of the possible, 10 years from now. And so I think, to me, that's one of the areas I'm most excited to see, AI advance us. And again, I think that'll really help accelerate our clinical trial timelines. And again, I think we'll be able to do more research, right? Maybe from your lens, you're like, well, wait, is that cutting into my business? No, I actually think it's going to be, a force multiplier where you'll be able to do more studies. And the patients that show up here will be more excited to participate because they're getting that experimental, treatment, not just standard of care where they could go get that potentially, down the road with their clinicians. So I think that's one of the next big unlocks in our industry. Again, I think it's maybe a decade away from scaling, but we are seeing some early companies putting in the hard work today for the building blocks of what's going to need to happen down the road.
Thank you. And Rick, how are tech-enabled sites making more money?
So many ways. I think even when you just talk about efficiency, right? Number one, these tools are making them far more efficient in how they get the job done every single day. So if you can get the job done with less people, with less time investment, then you can do more with less. And so I think that's the easy part of the question. We're also finding that a lot of the customers that are utilizing technology to a greater degree, and I think you even mentioned that this is true for in some of your cases in feasibility, where sponsors are actually looking for tech-enabled sites. And so you're going to have a leg up in the site selection process when a sponsor knows that you're leveraging technology to a high degree. If you're utilizing things like a quality EISF, if you're using eSource, they're going to know that you're not just going to have better data, but quality data is a priority for you, right? So I think that we're seeing a shift where sponsors are looking for those tech-enabled sites. And then another area that I like to say is that I believe sites can charge more when they have technology. There's benefits not just to the site, there's huge benefits to the sponsor. So just the fact that there are remote monitoring portals that give them instant real-time access to the data as it's being collected, being able to go in and review documents as they need to, as they can pull those documents down into their own environment. So with these advantages that we're offering to the sponsors and CROs, we can charge for those advantages. It saves them real time and money as well. I always like to say if we save them 1 or 2 monitoring visits alone, that's thousands of dollars that they're able to save in these on-site visits. So I hope sites are really negotiating a lot better when they have technology. And I think we offer a lot of tools and suggestions on how you can provide a very strong justification for asking for more dollars within your budgets. And most of our customers that leverage that are seeing a pretty substantial increase in what they're being paid for clinical trials.
Yeah, I think, again, in all parts of our life, right, you pay for quality, right? You pay for speed and efficiency. And again, I think the tooling that we provide sites, again, it can turn around to the sponsors. And I was excited when I, joined just 3 months ago to see those justification letters, to see the metrics around how real-time sites, were able to charge more. And obviously, again, we aren't all businesses, right? And we have to continue to stay, thriving financial entities. And again, I think it's great that, our tooling can not only be a revenue center, but also help with profitability, make, our customers more efficient as well. And then it's exciting, for the sponsors because they want to partner with people like you, right, who can get through study startup faster, like we talked about before, who can provide high quality data, with less deviations. And so, again, I think it's this great virtuous cycle and this exciting time that we're living in. It's all unlocked, via technology. And so that those sites that aren't, moving as fast as Revival or others to adopt technology, unfortunately, are going to get left behind. And so, jump on board with RealTime.
Thank you. So Rick, despite all the tools that are available, when it comes to eSource, the adoption is still under about 60% for most sites. Most of them are on paper. So you built these tools. So why do you think the adoption is still low?
Well, and I think it depends on, where the data is coming from. I've seen statistics that we're over 60%. Certainly there's other ones out there that say we're under, I've even seen under 50%. So I think we're not really sure exactly what the global adoption rates are. Of course, we know within our own customers what adoption rates look like. And so it is accelerating at this point. I think the first couple of years is always your early adopters, the people that are willing to go way out on a limb and try something that's disruptive almost and new. We're beyond that. These are tried and true technologies. I think their value is widely understood. The fact that people are still resistant to take on these technologies is really something that perplexes me just a little bit. So I don't know that I have a great answer for you, other than I think that there are some folks that are still just leery for change. And look, it is change, and we do a lot with our new customers to talk about how to manage change. Going from paper processes to fully electronic processes is not easy. You've got obviously the staff challenges, staff buy-in. It's usually a complete overhaul of systems and workflows. So I think it's sites just really needing to understand the value. And of course, that's some of the things we're talking about here today. And as that becomes more understood, it's then finally making that decision that we're going to make the investment in our business and our people to bring these technologies in. And, I guess it almost leads me to a question for you is like, the adoption, the changeover that you experienced going from these paper processes to the paperless processes, was that extremely challenging for you, and how did you overcome those challenges?
I think specifically you were asking me, it was not as challenging compared to somebody who has not used technology. So as you know, my previous background was pharmaceuticals, and I worked for two best companies, Johnson & Johnson, GSK, where early adoption of technology was already there. So we saw the process moving from papers. In 1995, we were all on paper, and by the time we were in 2003, it started moving towards technology. So then I formed a couple of other companies, and we used the technology. So I knew the experience, and by this time when we used this technology, we knew that we needed a good technology. But also, as you know, that it's very hard to predict before really adopting the technology, because every technology company CEO would say that they have the best technology. So it's a kind of a bet, especially at the initial phases when the industry is growing. Once the instant is, so when in 2017, when we were adopting real-time, we had to really struggle making a decision that which technology. There were a couple of companies which were there, and based on the question and answers that I had with you and your teams, gave me a confidence if some technology will grow in the future, will be this. So actually it's kind of a betting because you don't know what it would look like. But I have been very fortunate. The products we have chosen over the last 15, 20 years all worked out very well because they had the right management, right mindset, and they were like me. They wanted to basically look into new things and things which can bring more harmony, more simplicity, easy to use, and all those things were already there. It was in real time, so it was there. So it was easy. But again, what I've heard, and I think this is an advice for anybody who is thinking about adopting technology, the first 2 or 3 months, if you have not used it, or you have employees which are a little bit senior, adoption will be harder. It will be harsher. You'll get a lot of complaints starting the 5th day. Everybody will say, okay, please shut this program. This is going to destroy the company. But I think the CEOs and the management has to be very resilient. Once they make decision, they should put their foot down day one, that they're not going back. There's no U-turn. You just have to keep on moving forward. There's an adoption time, 3 to 6 months, which is brutal. For some companies, too brutal. And that's why I've seen the 40-50% failure rate in adoption, that people go back on the paper because they're simple and easy. And more than anything, they're used to it. So change is always hard, and I think being resilient during that time in the first 2 months, 3 months is very critically important. But now there's so much data. So now in 2026, if somebody is looking at the option, you have only like 1 or 2 good options which you can choose from. And I have chosen real-time, and I feel very confident that we made a very good choice 9 years ago because the company has grown. And I will say that and admit that that number one factor for our growth was contributing contributed by the technology, and most of the technology we use from RealTime. So I think they are big contributors. That's why I have a very high respect for the team who is working behind the scenes. We cannot thank them enough for the work. They have made it easy for us. And I think we are very organized. We hear that from every CRA who walks in our clinic, that everything's complete. And I think that only was possible by having the right technology in our game.
Well,
so yes, a big contributor.
Well, and I think you just answered the question quite honestly. It's the change management, right? And Mazhar has a lot of experience with that, knows what's on the other side of that and the benefits of doing so.
Yes.
I think in a lot of sites, you know, they're run by doctors, they're run by clinicians, and the art of change management when it comes to technology is not necessarily something they have experience with or they really understand what it takes to get there. I flew to a site just outside of Seattle. And basically, because they were having trouble taking on RealTime, and they were honestly saying that it wasn't good software, and they didn't want to use it. And I spent literally one day coaching them on how to leverage the software into their processes. And 2 weeks later, they were calling saying they don't know how they ever survived without it. But it was what you said. It came from the top, and that's what I had to tell the leadership is like, you're giving the staff an option to change if they want to change. And when someone comes to work and they've been doing it the same way for the last 10 years, and they've been doing it on paper, and you give them an option to use this new technology or keep doing what you've been doing for 10 years, they're going to keep doing what they've been doing for 10 years, right? So I think it really came down to management saying, guys, we're not looking back. We are making this change. And, you know, I'm not asking you, I'm telling you. It's kind of a tough love type of thing. But on the other side of that, it changed everything for them.
I think it's, you know, the interesting thing like with technology too, especially in clinical research, like when you think about all the technology that you may or may not adopt in your life, you know, again, usually you get the personal benefit. So therefore, you know, you have rapid adoption. Again, in clinical research, sometimes the technology, you know, is benefiting other people down the line.
Yes.
So it's not necessarily the person that's using the technology. They're getting like some incremental benefit, right? But not maybe the, you know, total intentional benefit. And so again, I think change management, leadership from the top, really the why behind, you know, what's the big unlock here, not only for your job, but more importantly for research in general, you know, has to come out. And I think you've done a great job, obviously, you know, educating your staff on the bigger why, and then getting people to adopt, which is great.
I think there's a new saying going on right now in the marketplace that says technology or AI is not going to replace you or change you. It will only replace and change those people who are not going to adopt the technology.
Right.
So I think anybody who is there in this space of time, I think they have to really adopt this new technology. This is coming in. Otherwise, anybody who's not using it will become obsolete because the system is changing. And I think compared to when we started, like in 1990, when I started first working on a computer, till now, it's a day and night difference. And I think anybody who's there should invest some time in learning these technologies and basically not be afraid of that. Even if they have not used it, try to do that. And we have very good examples, and we have some tough examples also. Like in our employees, we have a large team, and there are few people who could not adopt, couldn't change. And it's very hard. So I think my message to anybody who's listening is to whatever you do, please spend some extra time learning technology. It's easy. You cannot break these technologies. Go there, just live in there. Click on every tab, open it, see how it's working. You'll make few mistakes, but you'll learn it. So I think being afraid of using technology, I think keeps people away. So I think just jump in. Just think about there's no way out. There's the only way that you have to learn the technology. And that's how I think we are going to change the entire system. And there wouldn't be any concern that 40% people are not using the technology. I think it should be mandatory that 100% should be used.
We'll get there.
Yes, yes.
All right. Okay, talking about the technology roadmap, question for Jeff. What is RealTime building over the next 24 months that you can share with us?
Oh, that I can share. Well, look, I mean, again, you know, coming in as a new leader, I'm really energized by the team that we have, but more importantly, you know, the roadmap going forward. So we're investing in all aspects of the business, and we've got, you know, great investment partners behind us. So again, I think it goes back to the platform vision, you know, that Rick and team established, right? We're doubling down on the CTMS, we're doubling down on the eSource, we're doubling down on our our eDocs and our eReg, and then we also have a great tool called Divana that helps with study start. So there isn't a part of the company, that we're not investing in roadmap-wise. But again, it all comes back to team, and you can't unlock growth, obviously, without a fantastic team. So my first priority, is to continue to work with the great team we have and then continue to recruit, others into the org. And so I'll use this opportunity to say, if there's anyone listening, we have a lot of open positions, and we'd love to, we're always constantly recruiting. So we'd love to have you, join our team. It's a high-performing, high-technology organization. It's got a great mission, and we're going to continue to change the world with great customers like Revival.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. One last question for all of you before we have a little fun. One bold prediction for clinical research technology by 2030. Name one bold prediction.
Well, I think I gave my prediction, earlier with, I firmly believe in synthetic control arms will be, part of the future, where we'll use, database technology. And again, if we structure the data right today, it'll unlock, what we're able to do a decade from now as it relates to, patient recruiting and control arms. So I'm gonna stick with that bet.
All right.
So if we're talking about 2030, let me start over again.
Okay.
By 2030, that sounds like maybe kind of far away, right? But it's actually in research time. That is, that might as well be a century. The bottom line is that we tend to move slow, unfortunately. But with AI, with a lot of the tools that we're bringing to the table, we are seeing an acceleration. But if I had to predict where we're going to be in 2030, we're going to see technology continuing to be leveraged more and more by the sites. And we're going to see the sites really, I think, controlling the tech stacks that are managing clinical trials on a much greater level. And so, I'm stumbling on this answer, so maybe just skip over me and go over to Mazhar if you have a...
I like that. We got to come back to that one. I like where you were going with that.
Yeah.
So come back.
Still in 2040.
Let's talk about 2040. How about that?
So that also means is off the record. It says sugar level is going down. We need all that lunch to go there. So that's a separate thing.
You need the question again?
We'll blame it on that.
That'll be fine.
Okay.
So I think you are asking about what do we anticipate, what's going to happen to 2030. So I think it's a vision. I would like to see a Revival to be working on a CTMS system where we can put a phone or an app between a discussion between a patient and the CRC, and everything is recorded systematically into the software. And if anything is missed based on the protocol, that particular visit, then the software will tell, hey, you are missing this thing. So the software will be guiding people what needs to be done. First item, second item, there are 17, 18 things need to be done. It will also time the process. So I think I want to see that. Second thing I would like to see that, and I hope it will happen, is that all data is compiled and the quality assurance is done in a form of automation through AI to tell the predictability and the outcome of that one page or one visit, that what is the quality of data that is being produced. The system can tell you that when you say finish, it say the data is good or effective 96 or 97%. The third thing it can do is to basically transfer. So you will not need quality assurance team. You will not need extra people to be doing the laborious work. And those people will be doing seeing the patients, where the time will be really utilized. The third aspect will be that data can be transferred automatically after being checked into the ADC. The fourth area, which is kind of there are two areas which are A and B of 4. Part of 4 is definitely eligibility is being an issue. And especially people who do not have a medical background really make mistakes in exclusion criteria related to medications, generic names, branded names. They get confused and they put a patient who was supposed to be excluded from the study, now is included in the study, and you have done 2 visits and CRA is coming and checking a patient shouldn't be there. So I think anything in AI where the system can tell the CRC that, hey, this has to be checked. This was supposed to be checked at the time when the patient was there. You admitted a wrong patient in the study, and it's already too late. So I think that can be avoided. Another area is basically labs. I think intentionally, unintentionally, people make mistakes, do not upload the labs, or they're not signed properly, and the decisions are not made. So let's say a lot of technology is already there that is being used in, I would say, radiology, where a system can take a look and give you a precise report that what is being missed, or a AI chatbot reminding you second or third day, please look into the labs they have not received, so you can call the labs why you have not received the results, or the results are on the way, or they have messed up with the whole blood package. So that can further avoid errors. In addition to that, like informed consent, I think electronic will really help, basically having the sign at the right place and the dates and everything, so there's no discrepancy when the informed consent was filled, who signed it, who didn't sign it, how it was dated, how it was timed. So these are small, simple things, but I think any technology company who's going to jump on these things fast is going to almost make a difference, 50-60% more difference than what they already have done in the future for the CRCs, because it will make everybody's life so simple. So the technology should be used basically simplifying the process, making it easy.
So if you just listen to Mazhar, the CEO of this company, listen to what he's asking for in the next 4 years, right? It's incredible. There's another site network that we met with recently, and they actually said, we're actually a technology company and a data company. And I think that and you guys are the same thing. It's being here and visiting with you and learning about all the things that you're working on. It's clear that you are so technology focused. You're so data focused. The advancement of what it means to be a top tier clinical research site or site network is pretty incredible. And so I think what we're going to see in the next 3.5, 4 years is this continued emergence of sites becoming the tech leaders of our industry and leveraging technology to a level that we really never thought of before, whether it be data collection electronically, whether it be the movement of data in systems, obviously wanting to leverage e-consent at a greater level. But I think one of the challenges that we have and we're working really hard on is giving you back the visibility that you need to have decision-making capabilities within your organization. And so it's just incredible to see the advancements of technology and how much sites are leveraging it. We're just really excited to be a part of that movement.
Yeah, and I think 2030, right? It's only 4 years away. I think to Rick's earlier point, that could be a lifetime. That could be, feel like it's tomorrow to a certain degree. But again, I think with some of the things that you guys articulated, that I think some of the acceleration is going to be between well set up systems on the site side, well set up systems on the CRO and the sponsor side, just talking to each other, behind the scenes to accelerate the things that we've talked about a lot today, right? To accelerate, startup and study conduct and execution, and then the regulatory filings and so forth. So I'm very excited by that.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you all so much. Now we're going to move into the rapid fire round. So I'm going to, basically the rules are it's going to be one answer, quick, don't overthink, just fire away whoever wants to answer as quickly as possible.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So Jeff is the smartest among all of us.
No. That always means I'm the least smart when the person says that.
Okay. We'll see who can answer first.
Yes, okay.
All right. Number one, AI in clinical research, one word.
Exciting.
One thing sites need less of.
Paper.
Yes.
One thing sites need more of.
Technology.
A technology trend you believe in.
eSource.
One you're skeptical of.
That's why I'm a bad angel investor. I like everything.
So, what is the question again?
One technology that you're skeptical of.
I would say any technology that is not basically helping doing things for us.
Bad technology.
Exactly. The technology is there, but there's no purpose of it.
Okay.
How about any technology that a sponsor is requiring sites to use?
Yes, that's
Okay.
it. That's
Anything that our competitors have.
There you go.
The one metric you check most often.
Visits.
Are you a morning thinker or a late night strategist? The
we can
Strategist, I think.
Strategist,
You want to
sorry.
ask it one more time?
Okay.
Let's start.
Okay. Morning thinker or late night strategist?
Late night, sometimes at 4 in the morning.
Early in the morning.
Morning. Thinking process happens in the morning.
Okay. If you had to explain your job to a 5-year-old, how would you explain it?
I work on a computer and make things, help people be successful. I don't know.
I help finding new medications.
To a five, how would I explain something to a 5-year-old?
You have a 5-year-old.
I know.
Whatever you say, you have to say 5 times. Yeah.
We help ensure if Elmo gets sick, that there's a medication to help him get better.
Yeah.
I like
That's
that.
good.
All right. Good job.
I think just use all of Jeff's answers, actually.
Yes.
Those are good.
All right. Thank you for that. One last question, and take your time. One piece of advice for someone navigating the future of clinical research. Anyone can take it.
I'll start. I think be open-minded. You know, really embrace change and be excited about the future. I'm a big proponent of challenging the status quo, and so I think if you want to participate in, people that get into research are just, it's the building blocks of science. So it's always challenging, what's been the prior art, and so I think my advice would be really embrace that change.
I think embrace change, but do so with caution and diligence. I think a lot of people, of course, you have one side of the coin where folks really don't embrace change, and I don't recommend that. But I do think being open to change, but really evaluating all of your options carefully, because these are big decisions. The technology that you choose to bring into your organization, once you're in it, you're in it. And if you've realized 6 months or 6 years down the road that you did not make the best choice, it is very painful to right that wrong. And so I think making sure that you're really evaluating options and where you want to take your organization carefully is very important.
All right.
And I would say, like, on the same terms, don't be scared of technology. If you're in research space, in clinical research, which is all about innovation and discovery, you cannot go in that business half-heartedly. You have to really go in that business. And the need of the business is basically using all the sources which are needed to get the best outcomes and get the best results for the sponsors, for the FDA, so they can make logical choices to adopt the drug, to approve the drug, to disapprove the drug. But all the efforts you are going to make in is going to help that product to get into the market if it's the right product. I always talk about the beauty of this business. It's a very good business. This is one of the business where you don't have to lie because each drug proves or disapproves itself while going through the course. What we do is witness what is happening. And definitely the biggest credit goes to the patients who basically volunteers themselves to participate in the study. Our job being in clinical research, for anybody who's in technology or in clinical research space, we have to really observe. We have to really enjoy the overall progress and hope that every drug which comes to us gets to the final finish line, which is passing phase 3 trials. So, and our job is to not be biased, be very open-minded, learning, and making sure that we are doing a very just job, very good job for the sponsors who are spending billions of dollars to bring one molecule. So we have to give them a credit because somebody is investing. Still, like 70% of the new drugs are coming from the United States. So I think we are the best place at the best time with the right people on our side. So for us, Revival, we have very high hopes for us. We have very high hopes for you guys. I think we really wish a really great future together and keep on supporting each other.
Agreed.
All right, that's a wrap. I want to thank Dr. Jaffry for being my co-host today, as well as Rick and Jeff from RealTime to be here, talk openly about, what RealTime has created and where you're heading. I appreciate all your feedback. Thank you so much, and For those of you who have tuned in, thank you, and we'll see you on the next episode.